Now, Congressman Adam Schiff is here with us, and let's just start right there with that. If the president, in fact, did order Mueller fired back in June or wanted to fire him, what difference does it make? He didn't.
Well, that's true, but it shows what length this president will go, is prepared to go to interfere with the Mueller investigation, that he would take a very Nixonian-like step and have his own Saturday night massacre of people who were at the Justice Department or investigating the Russia involvement in the campaign.
But does this have anything to do with the Russia investigation per se? He didn't do it.
Well, he didn't do it, but according to this article, if it's accurate, he actually ordered Mueller's firing. It was the fact that that order was not carried out by his subordinates that prevented the country from having this constitutional crisis. What it ought to tell us also, though, is if the president believes he's threatened again, if the Mueller investigation leads in a direction that he doesn't want it to go, that he would be prepared to take these kind of steps. And I think it's very important for members of Congress to speak out right now to make sure that the White House knows this is a red line they cannot cross, that it would cause a constitutional crisis were the president to take an act like that. And I fear instead what the Republicans in Congress are doing by attacking the FBI is sending the message to the White House that this might be permissible, and that would be a disaster, I think, for the country and for the administration.
So we're also hearing that Trump might be interviewed by Mueller. It's like where the rumor it happens for Hamilton. Do you think that's going to take place? How do you think it's going to go down? Like written, live, like President Clinton did when he was, interviewed? Do you think that will happen?
I think it will happen, and I think it will be an in-person interview. I don't think special counsel either will or should accept written responses to questions that he has. The written responses, those are really testimony from the lawyer. And there's no opportunity to ask follow-up questions in real time, which is where you get the truth. So he's going to have to insist on a live interview. Whether it will be under oath or not, as the president says he's willing to do it under oath.
Well, he's not obligated to do it under oath.
Well, he's probably not obligated to do it under oath. And I don't know that the president will follow what he is committing to do. Certainly, if the president wants to do it under oath, it can be done under oath. Either way, though, if the president lies, it's a crime, and obviously a great risk to this president. The president out there, as you showed in the clip, denying that he had ever ordered the firing of Mueller. That's been contradicted by multiple sources, according to the Washington Post and New York Times. So if he is lying about this now, what are the odds that he'll be completely truthful with Bob Mueller?
All right, let's talk about immigration reform for a moment, if we can. DACA specifically, the president has said that he is open to a path to citizenship for some 2 million children who are no longer children, but who were brought into this country illegally by their parents, so through no fault of their own. But at the same time, he also wants, a bunch of money to build the wall, billions of dollars. And he wants to put limits on who exactly is eligible to come into this country legally.
Yeah.
Is that going to fly?
It's not going to fly. I think what the president put out is basically their opening bid. But the real tragedy of this is we have 800,000 dreamers whose lives are hanging in the balance, that the administration is saying as soon as March they may start to be deported. They'll lose their ability to work in this country. And he wants to use that jeopardy to these young people to build a wall. And he wants to do it in a way that violates the campaign pledge that he made, which was that Mexico was going to pay for it. So he is trying to exact from the taxpayers tens of billions of dollars to pay for a wall that he promised they would not have to pay for. And he's prepared to put these young people's lives in jeopardy to do it, and their futures in jeopardy. I think that's a terrible tragedy, and I don't think we ought to stand for it in Congress. I don't think the country should stand for it, that they should be used as leverage in this way.
You don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm curious. I'm going to shift back to Trump. What do you think is going to happen here?
In the investigation?
I just have to ask. Yeah. It's at dining room tables. Everyone goes, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Honestly don't know, because there are key witnesses that we have not interviewed yet in our committee. I put George Papadopoulos very much at the top of the list. It appears the first Russian overtures to the campaign were made to Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos, in April of the election year, was told by emissaries of the Russians, we have Hillary's emails or DNC emails. We have dirt on Clinton. We want to have a relationship with the campaign. So we all need to know how much of that was communicated to others in the campaign. Was Papadopoulos or others on the campaign told that the way the Russians were going to help with this dirt was not by providing it directly to the campaign, but by publishing it online to give both the campaign and the Russians some level of deniability? Was there an understanding between the Russians and the campaign? Papadopoulos holds some of the keys to those questions. Flynn may hold the keys to other questions. We know that Flynn colluded with the Russians by meeting or speaking privately, secretly, the Russian ambassador, to try to undermine the sanctions that were imposed because Russia had intervened on Trump's behalf. So a lot of the key witnesses are cooperating with Bob Mueller, but have not spoken with us yet. And it's really hard for me to predict what they'll have to say.
I just wanted a crystal ball. I was like, what's going to happen? Can we end this saga?
I wish I could tell you.
And we have to keep in mind that this isn't just about, whether or not there was collusion. I mean, the special, counsel or prosecutor can actually talk about any or investigate any crimes that may have flowed from any possible collusion with Russia. We're talking about obstruction of justice and other things as well. So there are a lot of things that could come up during the course of the investigation.
Very true. And one of them, which we have not been able to investigate in our committee, but I think is very important, is there are credible allegations that the Russians were laundering money through the Trump Organization when the Trump Organization couldn't get financing elsewhere. The one bank that would do business with the Trump Organization, Deutsche Bank, recently had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in fines to the state of New York for laundering money for who? The Russians. So that's one issue that is related to Russia, may have been an area in which the Russians exerted influence over the Trump campaign and the Trump Organization, but that we have not been able to get answers to.
All right, lots more to come.
I was going to say, the Attorney General of New York is going to play a key role in all this.
Absolutely.
All right,
thanks so much. Appreciate it.